The regulators say we can legislate for the product, but we can't legislate for how the product is being sold. So as a QROPS provider, what action do you take to ensure IFAs in the field aren't mis-selling QROPS?
Well, I think the first part of your question I agree with. I think it's very difficult to regulate what's happening in many jurisdictions. I mean, QROPS is being sold in just about every jurisdiction across the world, so it's impossible for Guernsey, for example, to regulate. The UK should provide that if you want to transfer your pension out in the UK, that it has UK proper advice when it first goes out the UK. That would be the ultimate solution to the problem.
So are you appealing now to HMRC?
Well, I think that if you're not going to, if the UK are not going to regulate the initial transfer out, then you have got a degree of free-for-all in the marketplace where there is no de minimis. There is no de minimis. If the UK are happy to have the transfers leave their shores without having UK FSA approved advice, then one could argue, devil's advocate, why should anybody do anything different? And I'm sure there are providers out there that are not too fussy. There is, unfortunately, in all markets, in any financial product, people on the edge that are willing to take risks.
We know that mis-selling is already happening around the world because QROPS is it's a vehicle to provide an income for retirement. It's not a product whereby you can sort of move cash around and have cash tax-free. And we know of some schemes where people are washing them into a jurisdiction. Your retirement pot's gone in. You can cash it out. No tax is being charged, and you virtually sort of wind it up over a few days.
Yeah, over a couple of weeks I've seen advertised, for 15 or 20% we will sort of free your pension and give it back to you.
Presumably every jurisdiction, even the good ones like Guernsey, suffer from this kind of bad press. And
I don't think it's happening in Guernsey.
No, I'm not suggesting it is. I'm saying that you suffer by the bad press.
Yes.
This kind of practice is...
Yes, well, it unsettles the market because people are going, well, if that's the sort of thing that's going on, do I really want to be part of it?
Close has adopted the Guernsey QROPS Code of Conduct. Exactly how does such a code, which is voluntarily adopted by providers, ease the minds of IFAs recommending these products to these clients?
Code of practice, I think, becomes particularly important when working in an unregulated environment. Now, a lot of QROPS products are unregulated product, even though the trustee themselves might be regulated. So, getting assurances from the product provider as to how they are going to adhere to HMRC's obligations in terms of qualification is absolutely vital. The issues we've seen in the media to date, where cases of jurisdictions being blacklisted or schemes have been struck off, is where the scheme or the jurisdiction hasn't followed those guidelines. The Code of Conduct provides customers and advisors with comfort that those product providers will adhere to the QROPS qualifying guidelines. So it's all about compliance, and this compliance point is absolutely fundamental. And it's also important to realise that once the code has been adopted, it is adopted for each and every single customer of that QROPS provider.
One such New Zealand QROPS company, the Southern Star Retirement Fund, has been closed due to regulatory uncertainty. Do you think New Zealand providers have been or are guilty of mis-selling such a product to those looking for a qualifying overseas pension scheme?
Do I think that they have been guilty? I think that there is some serious questions to be asked of some of these operators. A New Zealand advisor, it's not a sort of a one-trick pony, you move your funds to New Zealand. It's a case of all these other jurisdictions to think of. Do you leave them in the UK? Do you hold them back? Do you hold them in a Guernsey scheme for 4 years while you've got this tax exemption? Why move to a tax exemption? Some of these people are migrating. They don't know if they're going to stay there. But they're being targeted by New Zealand advisors coming over here. We have Australian advisors coming over here. And they're openly targeting these people. And if you move a fund to Australia, there is no reverse gear. And we've got people who've moved the funds into Australia and they want to move them back. And they can't, they're stuck. So it's really a big learning curve is necessary. And there's a lot of issues out there where the providers need to take a serious look at what business they're accepting and whether the people are actually trained and capable of giving advice in this area. And I think in a lot of cases they're not. So it's what you mentioned New Zealand. It's all over the place. UK advisors are not geared up for this. UK advisors have got to know how to know their clients, otherwise they face serious risks. They could find, I can see a case at the moment with the regulators they are. If you don't know your client and you don't consider all options, there will be fines coming from the UK regulator. And we've already seen it happen where advisors have not taken into consideration clients' future plans and personal circumstances. We've got a guy who's who's purchased an annuity. The advisor knew he was going overseas, but tax efficiently, it was better for him to move it into a QROPS. A lot of work needs to be done, and I think advisors in all countries need to respect the system and the rules of what they're set up for. I think advisors need to be sort of understand what they're doing, and their suitability letters they're writing out need to sort of take into consideration what, and actually become anti-litigation letters, because a customer who moves his money into the wrong jurisdiction at the wrong time can come seriously unstuck.